What's up, everybody? I'm Tim from Timber Ridge Gifts. So lately I've been getting a lot of questions through my channel relating to how to actually start a business. Rather than try to answer each one individually, I decided to go and do a video. We're going to call it How to Start Your Own Candle Business. And in this video I'm going to go over several steps, several different considerations you're going to need to take into account when you actually start your business. It's not so much going to be a step-by-step of how to actually go about taking your business to the next level, but it's going to be more geared to the technical aspects of what you need to consider when you're starting your business. First, let me say that I'm not really going to go into the legal aspects of the business, things like whether or not you need to form an LLC or run your business as a sole proprietorship, things like that. A couple reasons, mainly because it's not going to be a good fit for everybody's business. I'm not going to be able to give blanket information that's going to fit everybody's business the exact same way. Want to run their businesses differently? Some people are going to have to. It may be such that the state that you live in has different requirements that other people don't. So if I were to give you good advice, which works for me in Tennessee, that may end up being horrible advice for somebody that lives in Texas. Not to mention, I have a lot of international subscribers. To be honest, I don't really know what they do to actually start their business, so I'm not going to waste their time telling you how to form an LLC in Tennessee when they live in the UK and none of that pertains to them. Best advice I can give you there is just contact a local tax professional. He'll be able to give you the best advice that's going to fit your business for the area that you live in. I have the added benefit of being married to a corporate tax accountant, so basically I just give her all of my paperwork and she takes care of the rest. But just contact your local tax professional and he'll be able to give you a lot better advice than I would about actually forming an LLC or getting your business started on the legal end. This video is going to be more geared to the technical considerations that you're going to need to take. So let's go ahead and get started with those. So the first thing to keep in mind is whether or not you enjoy candle making. Obviously, running your own business is going to be a lot more fun and rewarding and a lot easier to take to the next level if you actually enjoy it. So best advice would be to just get yourself a good starter kit, make a few batches of candles, on your stovetop, just to make sure that you're actually going to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, it seems like work, and you're not going to put in the amount of time and effort that it's going to take to actually take it to the next level. But because you are watching a video about how to start a candle business, I'm going to assume that everybody's already taken that first step, and everybody's all in and ready to go on. So the next thing you need to consider is what your actual product line is going to be. We'll touch on that several times throughout the video, but you have to consider what you're actually going to make. You can't just, you have to have a plan. You can't just buy a bunch of containers, try to make 1,000 different kind of candles, and think that's going to work for you. At this point, you got to be pretty specific. Like when I first started out, I was making 7 or 8 different size candles, and that just absolutely didn't work. It was too hard to keep up with, too much inventory, too many supplies coming in. So I had to narrow it down. Now I basically make the 8-ounce candle, the 4-ounce candle, and occasionally I still do to make some specialty size candles. You can always expand your product line as you grow, but starting out you want to keep it pretty simple. Next step is going to be actually finding your suppliers. If you're going to make candles, you need candle supplies. This can be the step that really does make or break your business. A lot of things you got to consider. First thing, just going down the list of supplies, is your actual jars. Do your best to source those locally if you can. Reason being is no matter where you buy them from, they're relatively inexpensive, but glass jars are heavy. It's going to cost you a fortune in shipping to get those jars to you, unless you just find an incredible deal. But as a sustainable supply line, you're going to want to try to find those as close to home as possible, where you can actually go pick them up and not have to pay any shipping. The first batch of jars that I ordered, forget how many I ordered. I got quite a bit. I think I bought maybe $60 worth. Cost me $40 to ship it. So I didn't do myself any kind of favors. Next is going to be determining where you're going to get your wax from. There are a few different variations from one company to the next, but as a general rule, they're all selling the same kind of wax. Take Golden Brands 464, for example. Every company that sells 464, they're selling Golden Brands 464. It's the exact same stuff, whether you buy it from Lone Star or Candle Science or AAA Candle Supply. You're getting the exact same product. It's from Golden Wax out of Louisville. So consider there is finding a supplier that's closest to you. If you live in Ohio, you're going to want to find a supplier that's in Ohio because it's going to be a lot cheaper to ship to you than it would be to find a supplier in Washington State. You're going to have to pay to cover that distance. Wax is, anywhere from buying it for 5 pounds at a time to 55, 60 pound boxes. You go to order a 60-pound box, you're going to find that's a lot cheaper to ship it halfway across your state than it is going to be halfway across the country. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for that part of your supplies. Next is going to be your fragrance oils. You want to try to limit that to just a few companies. There are actually thousands of companies. But to find a sustainable supplier that you're going to use on a regular basis, you're going to want to limit those 2, 3, maybe 4 at the most different suppliers. Going back to my first experience, when I first started out, I was buying from 8 or 9, 10 different suppliers just to get the fragrances that I wanted to keep in my product line. I found that when it came time to reorder, I was reordering from 10 different companies, paying shipping from 10 different companies. So the main thing is you're going to want to condense your orders to where you're not getting one fragrance oil from 5 different companies. You want to try to get those 5 fragrance oils from one different company. So at the end of the day, you're only paying shipping once. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. And when you're just starting out, it's definitely going to help out your bottom end. To do that, to find the suppliers that are close to you, it can be just as simple as doing a Google search of candle suppliers near me. And there's also a website that I'm going to list in the description. Actually, a list from the National Candle Association. They have a long list. Basically, every candle supplier that they can find, they've put onto a list. It's a really great list. There's a few dead links on the list. But to actually be able to find different suppliers, it's a phenomenal resource. So I'll add that to the description. Next is going to be your labeling and your branding. We'll touch on branding a little bit more later. But mainly, let's focus on your labeling for now. This is going to be the thing that makes you stand out. That'll make more sense later when we talk about competition and branding. But for now, let's talk about the labels themselves. There are hundreds of different options of where you can actually get your labels. They all kind of fall into 2 categories, whether it's going to be labels that you print yourself or whether you're buying pre-printed labels. There's pros and cons to both. If you're buying pre-printed labels, obviously you have the ease of having somebody else make it for you, so it may turn out better if you're not a very creative person. But some of the cons are it's going to be a lot more expensive and you're going to have longer turnaround time. You're going to have to actually order it, wait for it to come to you in the mail, versus just something that you can print yourself and have 5 minutes later. And with your labels that you print yourself, the pros are they're going to be a lot cheaper. It's going to be a lot more readily available. But some of the cons are that it is something you have to do yourself. So you have to have additional equipment. You got to have a printer to print your own labels. And if you're just somebody that's not creative at all, this may not be the best option for you. I personally print my own just for the ease of it. A lot of different companies you can choose from. The one I settled on was Avery. It's an amazing company. As far as labels go, the actual selection, pretty much any size or shape that you can think of, you're going to be able to buy from them. In addition to that, they've got a design software built into their website. So there's nothing that you need to buy or download to be able to design your labels. You can just go straight to their website, design it. They've actually got you can set up an account through them. Doesn't cost anything. It's just basically, kind of like their version of the cloud that they have just on their website with their software just for you. So I've got my own account set up through them. Everything that I've designed, I can save to that account. So labels that I designed 3 or 4 years ago, they're still sitting there for me. I can go back to them if I need to. So it's a great resource. If I were going to suggest one, that would be who I would use. I'll go ahead and put their link in the description as well. Now let's talk about the actual business considerations. Before we go into that, I'm going to give you guys some of the best business advice that anyone ever gave me. And of course, I didn't listen. A lot of you probably won't either because it won't make sense. But after having made the mistakes that I've made over the years, this makes more sense than ever, and I wish I'd followed it when I first started. I was talking to a good friend of mine that owned a very successful gym when I first started out my business. And what he told me was stay small for as long as you can. Didn't make any sense to me at the time because I thought I'm starting a business, I want to grow my business, and I want to become the next Yankee Candle. So why do I want to stay small? To paraphrase it a different way, first starting out, you're a small business, you're going to make small business mistakes. When you're a small business, making those small business mistakes, learning those small business lessons, doesn't hurt as much. If you take a step up and try to do big business before you learn those small business mistakes, that's when it becomes costly. An example from my past, when I first started out, I was fortunate enough to land some very big candle orders, 200-300 candles at a time to different companies. The only problem was I didn't have a lot of experience yet processing orders that large. I'd gone from making 2-3 candle orders at a time to selling 300. So I didn't really have my personal infrastructure in place to be able to gather those kind of supplies, produce those cost effectively in a timely manner to be able to actually make money off of those orders. When you're selling big orders like that, a lot of times they want discounted prices. So I did that. I sold a few of those at wholesale prices, which we'll find out later on, which the price I offered them was 50% of retail. So long story short, I didn't know how to gather all of my supplies that quickly. So I ended up overpaying for shipping to get my supplies to me. When it was all said and done, for the time and effort that I put into putting out 300 candles, I made very little money. Fortunately, I did come out ahead, but to do it over again, it wouldn't be worth my time. So staying small until you're ready to move up, making sure that you're ready to move up before you move up and start making those big business moves. While we're talking about business mistakes, if at all possible, run your business debt-free. Bankroll everything you can. I know supplies can get expensive, but nothing is more frustrating than making $200 a month profit, feeling good about yourself, and then seeing that $200 just float away in interest charges. Nothing's going to make you hate your business more than to put all the effort into it and basically feel like you're working for somebody rather than working for yourself. So bankroll everything you can, keep your business debt-free, and you're going to be a lot happier and a lot more successful down the road. The next step is going to be to determine your price. General rule that a lot of people follow is you're going to take your cost of supplies, multiply that by 2. That's going to be your wholesale costs. Multiply that by 2. That's going to be your retail cost. So, for example, if supplies cost $3, $6 is going to be your wholesale, $12 is going to be your retail. Those are great margins. Like I said, that's a good general rule to follow, but it almost never works out to exactly that. A lot of your pricing is going to be determined by the actual product you make and your competition. Come in way above your competition and seem like you're overpriced, and you don't want to come in way below it. People are going to view your goods as possibly cheaply made. If the average price for a certain size candle on a website is $9, you're selling yours for $4, the average consumer is going to look at it and go, man, this is dollar store stuff. I don't want it. So just keep that in mind when you're pricing your candles. There's, like I said, that formula that I gave you, that's a good general rule. But really it's up to you to do your own market research, comparing your candles to the competition, knowing your supplies. You're really going to have to determine your price on your own. There's no blanket answer for it. It's all just going to be determined on what you make and how it stacks up against what everybody else is making like yours. Just keep in mind that as your business scales, that means as it grows, your margins are going to decrease. You're going to be to the point where you're going to be able to buy your supplies more in bulk, which is going to bring your cost of goods down lower, and it's going to increase your margin if you stay at the same price. Right now, your supplies are $3 per candle. As you scale and start buying in huge bulk, that might bring your supplies down to $2. If you're selling that candle for $7 the whole time, as you scale, your profits are going to actually grow. The next thing to consider is knowing your market. That is, knowing who you're actually going to be selling to. This can be determined by a lot of factors, such as the actual type of candle you're selling, especially if you're selling online. That's only going to be searched by people that are looking for that specific candle, so they're going to be your target audience. And also, if you're selling locally, it can be determined by the cultural and social makeup of the area that you're in. Examples of what I'm talking about is a couple different shops that you're going to see on Etsy. I'll leave the link to their shops in the description so you can check out. One of them is called Frostbeard. It's a company out of Minneapolis. They sell mainly book-themed candles. Very specific genre, but this guy is absolutely killing it. If you check his product selection, he's only making 2 or 3 different types of candles, and he's only offering maybe 10 different scents. But he's so tuned into his market that even with that small of a product offering, he's just absolutely killing it. It's actually the largest candle shop on Etsy. I think when I checked yesterday, he had 102,000 sales over his Etsy career, which is well over twice that of the next closest shop to him. Not saying that you should go copy what he does and think it's... obviously, he's figured out how to sell those on that platform. A point I want to make from his shop is you don't have to have just a wide array of candles. He knows his market. He knows the people that he's selling to, and he's gone into that hardcore, and he's just killing it. Another example of that would be a shop on Etsy called The Subversive Housewife. I'll leave the link to her shop as well. The candles she sells, her product offering is more in her labeling. All of her candles pretty much look the same. The only difference is the labels. I would describe her labeling as just kind of a maybe snarky or off-color comments. That may not be the best way to describe it, but if you go to her shop, you'll see it. Some of the labels she offers. The one that I noticed is she's got one that says "Bitches Get Stuff Done," and another one that says "Will you be my bridesmaid, bitch?" Obviously, that's only going to appeal to a certain kind of market. Definitely not saying anything bad about her shop, but she does have a very narrow market, but she caters to them incredibly. If you check her sales, I think she's got around 26 or 27,000. So she's figured out what her customer base wants, and she's going after it, and she's offering that to her customer base, and she's just absolutely killing it. I guess the thing to take away is you've got to know your market, you've got to know what people want to buy from you, and you've got to kind of stick within that market. You don't want to try to sell everything and sell to every market, because you're going to alienate, different parts of your market, and they're going to tend to shy away from you. If you're if you're selling comic book themed candles, you don't want to in one corner of your shop have comic book candles, and in the next corner have a bunch of lavender candles. People that are shopping for comic book related candles, they're not going to be shopping for lavender or flowery candles. And also, if you're going to be selling locally, you have to know your market, because this can make or break whether people are going to buy from you. If you're trying to sell book themed candles, you have to know that that's going to work in the area that you're in. If you take the Subversive Housewife, for example, she's going to have to be very careful of where she sells at locally, because those probably aren't going to appeal to certain segments of the population. If you live in a very conservative area and you try to sell candles that say bitch on them to the local church groups or at your local crafts fair that's put on in the church parking lot, probably not going to get many sales. So you just have to be aware of what your market wants and sell to that market. Consider is determining which platform you're actually going to be selling on. There's plenty of different places you could sell. Those would be door to door, like I did when I first started out. You can sell, different crafts fairs. You can sell at different craft fairs. You can sell retail, or you can sell online. A lot of different considerations to take in with each of those. For example, selling door to door. It's a great way when you're first starting out to get your business name out there and to make some quick sales, to keep some money coming in. But you have to consider whether or not you're actually going to be good at that. I'm really good at communicating with people, but I'm a horrible salesman when it comes to in-person sales. I was able to make some sales just because it was locally, a small community, a lot of people knew me. But if I were to just do cold calling, just door to door in some neighborhood where I didn't know anybody, I didn't do well at all. So you have to realize that about yourself. Salesmanship is not something that can really be taught. You can learn kind of how to wing it, but we've all seen a great salesman, and if you've seen a great salesman, you just know that that's just something that they're born with. That's just a gift that some people have that other people don't. So if you're going to try to do strictly door to door, you need to consider whether or not you actually have that gift to be able to actually sell it. Because if not, you're not going to make many sales. And selling door to door opens yourself up to probably the biggest area of rejection. If you go to 50 houses to try to make a sale, you might only sell to one house. So that's 49 no's. That can be pretty discouraging, and that's going to cause you to lose your passion for what you're doing really quick. Next is going to be craft fairs. Those can be really great if it's a good craft fair that fits your product line. Another thing you need to consider is the actual cost of each craft fair and the amount of revenue that it could potentially bring in. Some of your smaller ones at your local community events might be $20, $30 for your booth fee. Or there can be some mega sites that, I've seen some that charge $400 or $500 for their booth rental fee. So you got to consider going into those. Are my products going to sell at this particular craft fair? If it's something put on by your local church, you don't want to have something, you got to consider that's mainly going to be attended by people from that church or other churches. So you have to consider whether or not your product is going to be something that's going to appeal to that particular crowd. Another thing you need to consider is the size of the venue. If it's going to be something that's going to be held at the basement of some local business, how many customers are they going to have? A lot of your bigger craft fairs that have been going on over the years, one of their selling points for their booth rental fee is they'll actually be able to tell you how many different customers they've had over the years. So just something to look into and something to consider when you're considering going to that particular craft fair. Another thing you want to consider is with the bigger ones. For example, if you were to go to that one that had the $400 or $500 booth fee rental, are you even going to have enough to cover that booth fee? If you pay $500 booth fee, you've only got $600 worth of supplies to sell. Probably not going to be good for you to go to that one because you're going to have to practically sell out of your entire inventory just to cover that rental fee. So that may not be worth it. So just consider that when you're looking at craft fairs. Next is going to be retail. This can be a great way or it can be a bad way as well, just depending on what you get into. A couple things to consider are a lot of your retailers are going to they're going to buy from you in two different ways. They're either going to buy from you wholesale, which basically they take all the risks, so they want to pay a lower cost. That's basically where they buy your supply from you at a discounted price, then they sell it at a retail price of their choosing, and they make money off the top end. You can still make money off of it if you've done your pricing correctly, but you're not going to make as much versus the amount of effort that you put into it. But depending on the scale that you're selling, it can still be a good moneymaker for you. Another way that businesses are going to buy from you is on consignment. That's basically where you're taking all the risk. You put your inventory into their store, and they take a percentage. That can either be through a space rental fee or a per item fee that they charge. For example, if you're selling a $10 candle, they take a 25% cut. So when you sell that when they sell that candle, they take $250 and you get $750. You're not getting full retail for your candle, so again, you're not making as much money as you could selling it yourself. But depending on the scale of it or the actual success they have in their store, it can be a good money maker as well. Another thing to consider is that depending on what type of retail you're getting into, if you're getting into a single retailer, like possibly a big box store, just keep in mind that you're going to have to be able to keep up with that demand. If you're doing like I did when I first started out, going to multiple different retailers, you have to consider that if you get into 20, 30 different stores, that's also 20, 30 different relationships with those individual shop owners that you have to maintain throughout the course of that relationship. So you have to consider, is that something that you have the time to do, the patience to do, or the personality to do? Each one is going to have different demands. They may order outside of the inventory that you have, and you might have to scramble to get the inventory to them. So just you have to consider that whenever you're in the retail setting, that it's their shop, they make the rules. Are you willing to abide by those rules to keep your candles in their shop? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. That's just all up to you. Next is going to be selling online. This is primarily what I do, just for the exposure and the ease of it. Several different platforms that you can sell on. Just a few are Amazon, Amazon Homemade, eBay. You can have a standalone website, or you can sell on Etsy, where I sell. Each have their pros and cons. I don't have a lot of experience selling on Amazon Homemade or eBay, so I'm not really going to offer much pros and cons of those. Selling on your own website can be great because depending on where you get your website from, or where you what domain you have your website under, the cost can be varying, but you basically make the rules. You can design the website completely by yourself to look exactly how you want it. So that's great, but also with a standalone website, you have to consider that all the marketing is up to you. It's up to you to market that website, to get your SEO just right, and to be able to be found in search. Whereas other platforms like eBay, Amazon, and Etsy, they already do the marketing for you. You just have to set up your shop within their kind of under their umbrella. You still have to be found in search under their guidelines, but as far as marketing your product, that's something that they kind of do for you. So it's a lot bigger help. The one I'm most familiar with is Etsy. That's where you can find a lot of the research that I've done and my shop. I really like Etsy just because the costs are minimal, the exposure is great, the traffic is great, and the overall look and feel of your shop. Once you still can customize your shop within reason, so you can still kind of create the look you want and still have all the marketing, the traffic, and buyer protections that Etsy does offer. Now, if you are going to get into Etsy, I would suggest joining an Etsy support group. So although Etsy is fairly easy to use, the market can tend to get a little flooded. So there's a lot you're going to have to know, whether it's your SEO, your marketing, your branding, a lot of things that I've talked about today that can be learned through an Etsy support group. The one that I'm actually in, the one that I would encourage you to join, it's called Etsy ROCKSTARS. The lady that runs it is an absolute Etsy wizard. Pretty much everything you need to know about Etsy, she's going to be able to teach you. Within that support group, you could either call it a support group or a learning group. But within that group, You're going to find a video archive of different teachings that she's had throughout the years. And she also does live teaching every Thursday. In addition to that, she has a great support staff that's pretty much going to be available to answer any questions that you may have pretty much 24/7. And just within the other members of the group, you're going to have a huge support network. People that you can ask different questions of, show your product line to. You don't have to worry about them stealing your product ideas. She monitors her group very carefully to keep people like that out of the group. So everybody that's in the group is a good person that you're going to be able to reach out to. And that's going to give you true and honest advice about your product line. And it's really going to help you develop your product line, be found within Etsy search, and grow your business on Etsy. I feel so strongly about her group that I'm actually going to offer a giveaway in relation to that. Put the link to her group in my video description. If you do decide to join her group, just let her know when you join. Just tell her, hey, Tim sent me. Her name's Christy. Just say, hey, Christy, Tim sent me. She's going to keep track of that for me. Once we have 15 subscribers from this video, it's going to trigger another video and a giveaway that I'm doing for one of these 64-ounce candles that I make. These are totally customizable. So once she tells me that 15 people have subscribed, I'm going to go ahead and do a video giveaway, and everybody's going to have a chance to win one of these candles from my website. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll be able to get that done. If you're familiar with my channel at all, you'll know that I love giving things away. So check out her group. The link's in the description. And like I said, if you're going to do anything Etsy, I would suggest joining that group to learn everything that you're going to need to know Etsy specific to take your shop to the next level. What we're going to talk about is branding your products and standing out among the field of candle makers that you're going to find out there. One thing you need to understand is that the candle making business is extremely competitive. There's thousands of people doing what we're doing, tens of thousands even. So in order to stand out in that sea of candleness, that's going to make you unique, whether that be in your actual branding or your labeling or the types of candles you sell and the market that you sell to. One thing to consider is if you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, what's to keep people, what's to make somebody buy from you? Thing I always tell people is, if I can do the exact same thing that you can do, you need to take it one step further to a level that I can't do. Whether that is your technical expertise or something in your interest or background. So, for example, if you and I can both make the exact same type of candle, maybe you can paint really well. So why not offer painted candles? Because I can't paint at all, so I'm not going to be able to come up to your level when it comes to that. Maybe something from your interest or your background. If you're somebody that is really into comic books, if we can both make the same 8-ounce candle, when it comes to our labeling and our targeting of a specific audience, you're going to have a lot better chance selling to the comic book crowd than I will, because I know nothing about comic books. But if that's something that you're totally into, you can just take to that just like that, and make sure you stay within, legal licensing. But you can have comic book themed candles that are going to appeal to a specific audience that I have no chance of touching, because, like I said, I know nothing about comic books. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your branding or your labeling. You need to take that to a new level, or to a level that's going to make you stand out among the tens of thousands of people that are competing with you. Whether that be through the actual expertise, maybe you can do designs on your candles that nobody else can do, or candles that are going to appeal to a specific audience that you specifically can reach more easily than somebody else. Just keep in mind that you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Unfortunately, you're not going to come up with something that hasn't already been done. But you can grab your own piece of it and make that your area of expertise. So there's always going to be a great deal of competition, but by narrowing your competition through the branding, you're going to have a better chance of being successful. Last but not least is don't compare yourself or don't try to emulate what the bigger candle companies are doing. You got the big three, probably Yankee Candle, Bath and Body Works, and Woodwick. Don't just go to a Yankee Candle store, try to copy what you see Yankee Candle doing, and think that you're going to have success doing it on your own. Yankee Candle is a huge corporation. Their margins are incredibly high because they're able to scale at such a point that their cost per candle is so low that that's something that you would never be able to emulate. Yankee Candle might sell a 20-ounce candle for, what do they sell it for? $20 maybe. You're not going to be able to make a 20-ounce candle comparable to something that Yankee Candle sells and be able to sell it for $20 and make any kind of money, or to have that as a viable business plan. Something I've never understood is a lot of these candle suppliers, they'll sell duplicate scents of the scents that Yankee Candle offers. It's great if you're buying those to put those in a different type product. Maybe if you're making a certain type of wax melt that Yankee Candle doesn't offer, that a lot of your customers like, they might like to see a Yankee Candle scent in that candle. But like I said, if you're just going out making the exact same thing, a 20-ounce candle in an apothecary jar, the same color and everything, the same scent that Yankee Candle makes, you're not going to have a good run of it, because Yankee Candle is so much more efficient at it. Why wouldn't somebody buy a $20 Yankee Candle that's a nationally recognized name, internationally recognized name, versus buying a 20-ounce candle for $30 from Steve's Candle Shop? They're just not going to do it, and it's not going to work out for you. Another thing is to just don't compare yourself as far as sales either. Everybody starts out small. Yankee Candle sold one candle, then two, then three, and had to work at it till they got to the point where they're making billions of dollars a year. The same thing is going to hold true for you. You're not going to be the next Yankee Candle next month. You're going to have to go through the narrow times where you're only selling one candle a week, two candles a week, three candles a week, up to the point where you are the next Frostbeard, where he probably sells 3,000 or 4,000 a week. All that takes time, so don't compare yourself to them and be discouraged when you're not at their level, because they weren't at that level when they're where you're at. It takes time, energy, and effort to grow to be to that level. So if you're able to make a viable business out of it, just stick with it, and eventually you're going to see yourself growing and growing and growing to the next level. So just keep in mind that this is something fun that you started. Keep it fun. Keep enjoying what you're doing, and it'll take you a long way. That's really all the advice I have to offer. Hopefully that helps some of you. If there was something I didn't cover, feel free to ask in the comments. If you have something specific that you want to ask me, feel free to message me. You can go straight through my Etsy shop. You can find me on Facebook, send me a private message that way. Or you can send me a message or you can ask a question just in the comments of this video. I try to answer as many questions as I can, time permitting. Other than that, just thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks, y'all.